All right, I'll call to order the Thursday, December 8th, Lonsdale City Council meeting. Everybody could rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Dave Webb.
Here.
Kevin Kadada.
Here.
Tim Root is absent. Cindy Fuhr.
Here.
And Scott Palava.
Here.
Before us, we have the agenda. There looks like there's a couple added items and under licenses.
I believe that was actually on the agenda. That was under the consent agenda. There's just the addition.
Two additions, yeah.
To that,
Yep.
so I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with those additions on the consent agenda.
Motion by Palava,
Second?
second by Fuhr. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of minutes from the November 10th, 2022 regular meeting.
Move to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion by Palava to approve the minutes, second by Webb. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Public hearings, we have none. Presentation of citizens' petitions and comments. Now would be the time if you are not on the agenda. If you're here for the budget, that input will be up here in a little bit. If you have anything else, now would be the time. No public comment. Approval of the consent agenda. One item, approval of issue cigarette license to McIntoons Fine Foods, Casey's General Store, and Lonsdale Food and Fuel Marketplace. Anybody like any of those pulled?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Fuhr,
Second.
second by Webb. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Old business, we have none. New business, discuss and public input on the proposed 2023 city budget and property tax levy. Joel Erickson.
Right. Thank you, members of the council. Staff report here. During the budget process, which began in June, the city council held 7 meetings pertaining to the city's proposed 2023 budget and property tax levy. In the past, the city was required to hold what was called a truth and taxation hearing. Public hearing. Now what's required is that we have this agenda item listed on our budget. It was sent to all of the property owners in the city by Rice County on the TNT hearing or notice that they received. This will satisfy that state statute requirement. The property tax levy is proposed at $2,875,000. It is an increase of $430,000 or 17.59%. Based on updated property values from Rice County, the tax rate will decrease by a little over 3% to 55.480. I believe the actual number since this was out is 55.441, so we're off about 0.04%. Between 2017 and 2023, the estimated market value of property in Lonsdale increased over 75%. The estimated tax market value has increased over 84%. Our total tax capacity has increased just under 80%, and tax increment has increased over 20%. Net tax capacity has increased over 80%. The levy has increased 38.66% or 5.52% per year, again between 2017 and proposed 23. And the tax rate has decreased over 23% during that same time period. Based on the valuations, value increases and associated decreases in the market value homestead credit, the properties that the city tracks, 23 taxes will increase between $2.28 and just over $300. Although most businesses saw a decrease in their taxes since 2016, most businesses will see an increase in their city taxes. As far as wages and insurance, the proposed pay scale is up for consideration next on the agenda. We went over that during our budget processes, and to keep our pay scale Competitive, we removed the first two steps and added two onto the top end. Inflation increased 8.2% between October 21 and 22. Inflation from what I saw is forecasted to increase by 2.6% between October 22 and 26. Social Security is increasing 8.7%. The majority of wages are proposed to increase 5.3%. Total wages and benefits are just over 1.76 million. Getting into departments, the city council, wages are based off of what was approved before the last election in 2021, excuse me. I've got some money for audio equipment and then attendance at the Chamber's annual dinner and Mayor Association dues. Administration, revenues and expenses are similar to 22. Professional services, this is where the city pays for mosquito control, any required financial reporting, IT, document shredding, Rice County fees, truth and taxation notices, and special assessment processing, administration of our flexible spending account, continuing education, planning and zoning. Building permits are expected to decrease due to just less anticipated building. Professional services would be the website and the code, the website on, the city code on the website, excuse me, any recorded documents that, resolutions or anything that the council would adopt. Engineering, building permit review, and then funding for our portion or representation, design of the Highway 19 project, County Road 2 and 8th Avenue. We're working with MnDOT on a project that they're proposing to come through in 28 with a mill and overlay from Highway 13 between here and New Prague and then out to I-35. And then also the roundabout that's proposed for 2025 out at Highway 19 and County Road 2. Inspections are anticipated decrease, obviously with less building expected. Dues and subscriptions would be GIS and then Adobe through the League of Minnesota Cities agreement. As far as the police department, well, the whole city budget is as basic as it gets, but even more so the police department. We employ 6 full-time officers, 2 part-timers, and 1 office administration staff. Their professional services would be fees that we pay for through Rice County, again, IT and service contracts. 23 would be the second year of our 2-year agreement with the Rice County Attorney's Office for criminal prosecution. We also budget amount for civil as well. Utilities are based off of the new facility. We did budget, are budgeting $25,000 this year. Half of the cost of a new squad car to be purchased in 24, so we'll budget another 25 next year and expense the full budgeted amount. Capital outlay, purchase AED and then 3 encrypted 800 megahertz radios. The American Rescue Plan, the city received funding from the federal government in 21 and 22. We spent a small amount of that. Expenses proposed to be funded with those are new parking lot at City Hall and between the City Hall and Fire Department, windows and furnace here, new accounting software, portion of the skate park, and then the pedestrian crossing associated with the County Road 4 project, our cost share of pedestrian crossing at County Road 4 and 8th Avenue. As far as economic development, the EDA's focus in 23 continues to be implementing the initiatives that came from the BR&E program, marketing, and we are applying for a small cities development grant for owner-occupied housing rehab. The pre-application is due in January, and our request so far is going to be for $422,000 to rehabilitate 15 new homes. If awarded, the soonest that a project would start would be the end of summer of 23. I just proposed for funding of $40,000 from the property tax levy. This will be the first time since 2019. Prior to that, the last funding was in 2009. The other revenue is just the principal and interest payments on the revolving loan fund for the Pet Stop Vet Clinic. Other expenses would be grant administration, advertising, the digital marketing and pre-roll that we do, and actually the EDA meets next week. We'll be talking about other avenues or options for marketing as well. The library, the city's required minimum local support is $74,110, and that's set by the Department of Education. $22,000 in grant funding from Rice County. No fines have been budgeted for based on the library board's decision to not charge late fees. Contributions from the Friends of the Library, training and education would be Safe Assure, and attendance at the State Library Conference. Professional services, cleaning, copier, associated expenses with the villages of Lonsdale. And then capital outlay is consistent with prior year's budgeted amounts. Our debt service, the property tax amount is sufficient to cover the debt service payments with special assessments and existing fund balances. The last couple of years we've discussed not levying the 105% for the simple fact that people have prepaid their special assessments. So we're using those funds to reduce the amount that needs to be levied for on the property tax levy. New debt service in '23 would be for this year's street project that we completed. And then the next debt service to be paid off is the 2012 project, which was the 2nd and 3rd Avenue Northwest. And that is to be paid off in 2028. Parks and Rec, revenues consist of the property tax levy. We do receive a grant from the DNR as a pass-through pay agent for the Lonsdale Snow Wizards so that they can be reimbursed for their costs of trail maintenance, land acquisition, things like that. Franchise fees and cell tower rent. It is proposed to transfer $50,000 from the liquor fund to the park fund to fund DRS improvements that we've talked to with the ACEs. That would consist of improvements kind of in that concession stand, grandstand area. Transferring $167,000 from the road and bridge fund to fund trail improvements. And those funds have been budgeted over the last several years to purchase a new plow truck. During the budget process, we had Paul Don of Baird come and provide us options on how we can finance equipment and facilities. And so what we recommended during that was to free up that cash and use that to pay for a portion of the proposed trail improvements for next year, and then issue equipment certificates to finance the new plow truck. The only project plan for '23 is the skate park. We've got maintenance and repairs, some maintenance to the fishing pier, general maintenance, landscaping, just general landscaping, professional services, compost site expenses, tree removal, rentals, porta potties are $14,000 for our parks, some miscellaneous equipment rental. Bike trails, most of the trails were put in the early 2000s and are in need of repair. We've budgeted $400,000 for trail maintenance. We're looking at reconstructing the trails on 8th Avenue Northeast, 15th Avenue Southeast, and in talking with the city engineer, the cost estimate is coming in less than that. So based off of our trail condition map, the trail on Rayan Acres or Trendon Memorial Park, we believe that we'll be able to reconstruct that as well. I've got some capital outlay, lease payments for a couple new lawnmowers. Again, capital outlay structure, DRS improvements, which I talked about earlier, and then some funding for a cold storage facility at the Public Works facility. Seasonal employees are budgeted at about 2,500 hours, so that should be sufficient for sure for 4 seasonal employees. Water, revenues are generally consistent with historical data. We are anticipating 15 homes being constructed, which is half of what we budgeted for this year. Excuse me. Staff was successful in obtaining a grant of $10,000 for sealing well number 3, which is down on Delaware Street. Water sales is budgeted at $700,000, again based off of historical. Late fees run at about 2.5% of sales. We are not proposing a rate increase for water in '23. Wages are based off of current staffing levels. Training and education would be Safe Assure, and then water classes for staff for continuing education and obtaining licenses. Chemicals for treatment and turf. Repairs and supplies, we've got $30,000 for general repairs, $15,000 for water main breaks. We've budgeted a nominal amount for powder coating some hydrants. And then the big expense in repairs and maintenance is $80,000 to seal well number 3. Professional services would consist of finance costs, a copier, we have to test our flow meters, RPZ testing, uniforms, things like that. The water fund does pay for 15% of the audit. We've got $235,000 budgeted for depreciation. It's not an actual expense that we make, but it is expensed in our audit, so we want to make sure that we account for that. Capital outlays consists of water meters, new and replacements. Our debt service accounts for principal and interest and any transfers for the payment of the treatment plant, and then any street projects, water associated portions of street projects that we've conducted over the years. As far as the sewer fund, again, revenues are generally consistent with '22. Again, 15 new homes. Refunds and reimbursements are essentially insurance claims, if any. Sewer sales and late fees, again, are based off of historical and '22 year-to-date. Wages and benefits consistent with current staffing levels. Training is the same, Safe Assure, and then any wastewater associated, continuing education, and obtaining any licenses. Repairs and maintenance, we've got a total of $40,000 budgeted for general maintenance and manhole sealing. Professional services, $42,000 for hauling and application of biosolids, $50,000 for jetting and televising sewers, 15% of the audit. Depreciation of about $192,000. Again, it's not an actual expense made, but it is accounted for in our audit. Debt service would be the principal and interest and any transfers associated with the wastewater treatment plant and sewer improvements associated with recent street projects. 23, next year, is the last year of the debt service payment on the wastewater treatment plant. That annual debt service payment is about $400,000 annually. As far as the liquor fund, obviously margins are very important, and we monitor them very closely on a weekly, monthly basis. We've established goals for beer, liquor, and wine. Excuse me. We're close on the beer. We are actually exceeding on liquor and just shy on the wine, but tis the season for wine, so hopefully that ticks up a little bit. Other revenues would consist of other merchandise and lottery sales. Beer, liquor, and wine are by far our largest expenses in that fund. Professional services would consist of security, pest control, rugs, floor cleaning, HVAC. The liquor fund does pay for 10% of our audit. The liquor store donates the porta potties for community days. We account for that expense. Any association fees with the Rolling Ridge Marketplace Association. And then, as I stated earlier, accounting for the $50,000 transfer to the park fund. Road and bridge, the revenues there, property tax levy, LGA, and snow removal. We're proposing just over $147,000 for street maintenance, 125 of that for a mill and overlay of 5th Avenue, a portion of 5th Avenue Northeast, Elm Street Northeast, and 6th Avenue Northeast. We are not proposing any crack fill be done next year. We budgeted funds for catch basin repair, crosswalk painting, sidewalk maintenance, and patching. Professional services would be the required DOT inspections, uniforms, IT. Engineering, just general engineering, data link updates, and surveying. Capital outlay would be any payments on equipment. I talked about the transfer of the 167 to the park fund. As far as fiscal impact, obviously all decisions pertaining to the city's budget will have a fiscal impact on the city and the residents. Alternatives would be to, allow for the public comment and discuss any and all comments received, possibly consider postponing approval of the '23 budget and property tax levy. If the decision is made to postpone action on this item, we would need to conduct a special meeting between now and December 28th. And then included with the staff report are some general charts of the city's tax rate from 2017 to 23, just kind of illustrating what I went over. Since 2018, well actually since 2017, as I stated before, it's decreasing, but since 2020 it's been fairly consistent. Our tax rate compared to other communities in Rice County, we're right in the middle. Our levy since 2017, with the exception of 18, has increased every year. Total budgeted revenues, just over 8.7 million. Kind of a breakdown of that, 42% is general fund, 30% is the enterprise funds, which would be water, sewer, and liquor. And then the remaining 45% would be our debt service and economic development. We are proposing expenses of 10.5 million. How that equates or breaks out 38% to the general fund, 44% water, sewer, liquor, and EDA, debt service, 18%. Now, this is strictly for 23, so you look at, 10.5 million in expenses is obviously more than 8.7 in revenues, but you've got to account for the over 300,000 in American Rescue Act funds that we've received that in a prior year that we'll be expensing in a future year. We have the depreciation and some other expenses from the enterprise funds. I think depreciation in water and sewer is over $500,000. We have to finish our street project that was started this year. We received the revenues in 22 and we'll expense the remaining funds in 23. So the general fund balances, it's just the timing of when we collect the revenues and make the expenses. Got some charts on enterprise revenues, enterprise expenses, and then the last chart is where does my tax dollar go, and this is based off of TCU School District 2905. The city receives just over 41%, Rice County just under 28%, and the school district just over 31%. And then also included is the full line item budget, and then the tax levy impact that was discussed. The resolution for consideration tonight, and the kind of our year-to-date liquor store financial spreadsheet that we use to monitor the liquor store. And then everyone's favorite heat map provided by Rice County that shows the tax change by parcel for both the city of Lonsdale and Rice County. And then also included is information provided by Rice County, which is the total tax rates for every taxing jurisdiction in Rice County, townships, cities, school districts, Rice County itself. So you can see how we compare with other communities and total overall. So kind of a maybe not so quick review of what we've talked about for the last 6 months or so, but
Right.
I guess unless the council has any questions, we should allow some public comment.
Well, this has been discussed by us since early June, so we have a very good handle on it. I guess now would be the time for public input. And all we ask is if you can come up to the podium, state your name and address, and we'll let us know your thoughts.
Evening, Ryan Skazacek. Just wanted to talk briefly about taxes. I meet a lot of people in my part-time business. A lot of people I feel I can see the shift in people's expenditures, what they're paying and things they're spending money on. And I've got a lot of people that are actually coming up to me and they just simply can't afford lawn mowing anymore. So a lot of senior citizens are having a real tough time. And normally I'd kind of pass it off being like, oh, okay, you know, it's a senior citizen, right? But I'm starting to believe them more now that I'm talking to them. They're bringing it up every week and just calling me and texting me and, hey, I can't afford this right now. Taxes, you name it, everything's going up so much they can't afford it. The heat map shows, you know, taxes are going up, right? That's what's going on. Well, wages aren't going up. I see it. I feel it. My wages aren't going up. We're seeing 3-4% at my work. Looking through the budget, I didn't have much of a chance other than tonight to look at it. I don't see much cutbacks in here. It looks like the city's doing really well, that, you know, everything seems to be almost hunky-dory, but that's not, I don't feel that's the way the community is or feels. I see new lawnmowers, skate parks, new squad cars. I guess I don't know how many cars you guys have, but every 2 years you're getting a new car, a new truck, new city maintenance, new lawnmowers. Maybe they're more efficient, maybe that's better, I don't know. Maybe the new 40,000 lawnmower is gonna be more efficient, we got less guys, whatever it is, but it's just things that I see. People are hurting, I think, so I'm just here to voice my opinion and like to see, I guess, more cutbacks. People are hurting and they can't afford 10-12% increase in taxes. Is the skate park, was there grant or funding for that?
That actually came from the city of Shakopee. It was a used park that they actually put in the new park. I can't remember the exact dollar amount. Was it like
It was less than $1,000.
yeah, it was like $1,000 plus the city time to go and bring it over.
Okay,
So, you know, ultimately right now we're not into it for much. But,
Okay.
you know, once we get the concrete or asphalt under it, then that's when the expense will come.
okay, sure. With any project, there's always added maintenance cost too, so,
Yep.
right?
Right.
Add something on, it's like another car, right? You get now, somebody gives you a car, that's great, but then you gotta keep maintaining it, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
all these parks and stuff are, whether they're funded or grant funded, it all takes maintenance. The new city police office, you know, somebody's gotta come and maintain all that. The air conditioner goes out, $15,000, you know. I got people that can't afford the air conditioner right now. Air went out and they can't afford it. So, I mean, their car broke down, they can't afford to fix it. The tires are wore out, can't afford to change them. And it's like, it's real world stuff.
Right.
I don't know. I'd like to see more saving or more maybe cutting back. Mosquito control, I think that's an amenity. There's companies out there that, if you got a party or something for your mosquitoes, last year it didn't even rain. There was no mosquitoes. I don't benefit where I'm located from the mosquito control anyway. I end up doing it myself when I have a company over something, I'll do it myself. The truck comes around and the wind blows the other way and I live on the edge of town, it doesn't do me any good. So I'm paying for it, yet I see no benefit in it, so. I'm not sure. Thank you for your time. One other thing, did we start using salt in the city for road?
Mhm.
Like 2 years ago or last year?
Like chemical or?
Yeah,
I believe the new, the Gator now has an option for the applicator. That's the only applicator we have, and that's started this year.
has the city been using salt now?
We are using a salt mixture, but we're not using the slurry.
No.
Okay, cause I noticed like up Sitting Hills, all of our grass was dead on the edges, and I didn't notice that in the years past. Cause we don't have curb and gutter up there, so everything seemed to, all my neighbors were wondering, what happened to my grass? I said, well, the city's looks like they're using salt now,
Right.
so,
But typically, they're only salting and sanding areas where traction is gonna be an issue, like starting and stopping areas.
Sure.
They're not just doing the whole stretch.
Right.
So it's usually.
it's up to their
it's usually
discretion probably, but
intersections.
I hadn't noticed it in years past, and now I see
Yeah.
my street looks like it's got salt on it, but.
From what I understand, the mixture didn't change. The liquid I know is an option coming, but I think that is just for the trails.
Correct.
But otherwise, I haven't been aware of any change in the mixture.
Okay. It's kind of off topic, but.
Right, no,
thought
I-
I'd be up here. like
You're here.
mention it. Just so the spring's hard to get grass to grow, and I'm in there,
absolutely.
and all year I gotta look at this dead spot, so.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Alright.
Ryan.
Joe Kramer, I'm on Singing Hills Drive, just I'm a neighbor of Ryan's. Joel, excellent job, you really know your stuff from a micro perspective. I'm really impressed by all that. From a macro perspective, I'm just looking at some of the numbers here, and we're only bringing like, what, $8.7 million in revenue, but we're spending 10.5. That's a problem, isn't it? It's about a $1.8 million deficit. You know, again, that goes to some of the spending, I think, so. You know, how did that happen? Because I always thought we ran pretty lean here. I always thought that, I've been here 19 years
Yep.
this month, and I've always thought that the city did a pretty good job, you know, from balancing the budget perspective. But maybe I just haven't been paying attention for some time, but this seems to be a little out of whack. I read the newspaper article, and I probably read it wrong. I thought our taxes were going up 18%, not the budget. So as I read this, some of the information, it made more sense to me.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
Do I understand that correctly?
Yes.
That our budget's going up by $430-some thousand, and that's the 17 or something like that.
I think Joel was explaining that, though, there's
The levy
expended.
is.
The levy, yes.
The levy,
Yes,
yes,
yes.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the other thing he was explaining though, is there's expenditures that are in there, that's that 10 million versus the 8 million. It's money that has been budgeted for things over the past few years, like the plow truck, which is, you know, whatever that was, a couple, $200,000,
Right.
$250,000, that was broken over 3 years. Well, we'll spend it, in '23,
Yep.
but we've been saving it for the previous 2 years, so that's $250,000 of that, what you would think would be a deficit, but there's actually it's a surplus, or not a surplus, but that's sitting there, we built up a kitty.
Sure, it's
to
a
pay
kitty
that out.
slush fund,
So
yeah.
that's why the number looks lopsided, there's $250,000 right there.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a timing of when we receive the revenues and when we make the expense.
Sure, okay.
So we receive the funds in, 21 or 22, but we're making the expense in 23.
Right.
Yeah, that's just one example.
Yep. The
So
police
it's not a
station-
$1.8 million deficit then, or lopsided
Correct.
budget?
No, we're balanced.
You're balanced, okay.
Yeah, we're
Okay, now I was
balanced.
just looking
Yeah.
at some pie charts there, and
Right.
Yes.
you know, we just got that stack of information tonight, I hadn't
Yep.
seen it, so probably my own fault. I used to attend these a little bit more, often, and lately I haven't. And so I didn't see anything from a truth and taxation come through the mail. Was that something we were supposed to receive from Rice County?
That was on your property.
Yeah, it was on-
Proposed
Okay, so
statement.
maybe it's within that statement?
listed that.
Okay, all right, okay, all right.
You know, I think Ryan made a point, and he left, but about the mower situation, maybe because people aren't aware of that. We actually traded in a tractor that wasn't necessarily useful, and we're using part of those funds to buy those other 2 mowers. Those aren't new mowers,
Right.
we had to come up with new money. We found a better use of that money.
Yeah,
than
I'm
2
not
new
getting
mowers.
into the nitty-gritties,
No, I understand, but
yeah,
that's just one of
yeah.
those things too.
Exactly.
It looks lopsided, but really that money, we're getting a trade-in
Sure.
of.
It's offsetting. It's like trading in a car.
$90,000 on this one tractor,
Sure.
and we're gonna stick that into 2 other ones.
You bet.
So it ends up
Yeah.
coming out in the wash.
Yeah, I mean, I think he makes a good point where, do we really need a new plow truck? Do we really need new, well, maybe the police, they run them pretty
Right.
good probably, right?
Right.
And you do need reliable vehicles
Yep.
there. But I've seen some, plow trucks come by, they look pretty new. And I guess I would only say from a citizen's perspective, try to get as much out of that stuff as we can.
Some of those actually, within the last 5 years, we had sandblasted and recoded.
Okay,
I
So they
think-
look new.
I think some of our trucks go back to like 1999.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
The newest one is the 05.
And we bought that used.
We
Yeah.
bought that used and had it sandblasted and
Okay, wow.
repainted
Yeah.
to our colors.
okay.
And,
So this is
and-
the first new truck since '05.
correct, and, the Public Works, that's one of those things that, I kinda see it a little bit more because they stop down, they'll say, hey, we need to borrow a tool or whatever. The amount of work that goes into keeping those things
Sure.
together, not that they're junk, they're.
They break.
I don't even say they're abused, they're worked very
They
hard.
get
And-
broken,
and
right?
the issue is, when it starts becoming kinda like an old snowmobile,
Yep.
ride it for an hour and work on it for 10, you gotta decide what's gonna be the best use of your funds. You know,
Yeah.
something newer, reliable,
Yeah.
and less apt to breaking versus, spending hours and hours of manpower trying to keep it going.
You know, I
Parts
hear,
are
you
getting
must have
harder.
been riding snowmobile in the seventies and early
No,
eighties.
that's that was what my dad told me, that's why he would never.
Well, I was, and I remember those days. No, I mean, I think this is a good exercise. I mean, I'm just trying to better understand the numbers, and I read that article, and I'm like, oh my God, what the heck's going on here? And then I'm looking at some of the numbers here, and so I'm impressed. I mean, it makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
And Joel obviously knows his stuff, so appreciate the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Listening to everybody.
Sure, absolutely.
Evening, folks. My name is Rick Knus. I live on Hawaii Street. And as I saw the proposed taxes for next year, I kind of put something together. And I moved in 2019. And since then, city taxes alone have gone up 57%. County tax as well. And guess what? So did the value of my home. It went up
Right.
57%.
Mhm.
My income didn't. Taxes, I believe, are, at least property taxes, are directly tied to home value, appear to be, right?
Correct.
So, you guys got a windfall. Really think about it. I don't think there's anybody that had their wages go up 57% in the last 4 years. Mine certainly didn't. So, and I understand, I gotta say that this city does a good job. Y'all are doing a good job. I really appreciate the city services. I like living here. But it's getting expensive, and as some of the previous folks have mentioned, that I urge you to do whatever you can, like I have to do, and many of us have to do, is tighten the belt. Wherever you can. I can't see anything in the budget you presented tonight that's sounded outlandish. It sounds right, but 57% is a lot. So.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's gonna disagree with
No,
that.
no, not at all.
It's unfortunate, the cost of doing business just this year went up, triple what it should be. Everything, the inflation rates are so much higher than they used to be.
I agree. Everybody's going up, but
Yep.
Scott, in your business, is your revenue going up 57%?
Well, my revenues are going up, but at the same time, my costs are going up
Yes.
too.
Right.
So in the end, I'm not seeing that,
Yeah.
that same thing, and that's where we're dealing with, we're a nonprofit, entity here, we're just covering our expenses.
Well, fortunately, with inflation, property taxes are going up, so your revenues are going up. That's not always the case for a lot of people.
No, I understand.
Right.
One of the things too, though, that I don't think people realize, while there's an increase in the property values, we don't know what we're getting. We start this process back in June and July, and we have to figure out what it's gonna cost to run the city for the next year. And with the county kind of says, we think this is what you might be getting, we don't know.
Yeah.
We ultimately really don't know until September what we're actually gonna be getting. So we start the process early on. So it's not like we can say, all right, we've got this much more money to spend, because this is what we're gonna get. No, we hope that we're gonna be able to do it. It's,
Like any business, you have
Yeah.
to forecast what your next
Yeah,
year's revenue is gonna be,
exactly.
so you can forecast your budget. In some cases, it's guesswork, but you
Yeah.
got a lot of history to base it on, and you guys are pretty smart, I'm sure, you kind of figure out, you got Joel helping out.
Right.
All right, well, thank you for listening to me complain. Thank
No,
you.
No,
no
not at all.
problem.
No problem, thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
How you doing?
Good, yourself?
I'm not bad. My name's Mike Romig. I live up on Bird Street, Northeast. First time I've ever been to this. I know a few people here, Scott, and I've talked to Joel over the years. Any information on that curb to be put in my property there, Joel? No. No construction. I've lived here for over 20 years now. I retired out of the Postal Service as a city letter carrier in 2017. And that wasn't due to what I wanted to do, but medically, what I had to do. And with this, everybody talks about, oh, the Postal Service, great benefits, great pensions. But you forget about the union dealings with postal management. And just when you're getting ready to retire, there's some adjustments. and then you see your pension go down. So I'm living on a really small pension, okay? And what last few people have said, it's getting expensive, okay? And I've been looking at it lately that if things keep going the way they are, I'm not gonna be able to afford to live here. And I start thinking about all the other people in Lonsdale who have lived here for 40, 50, 60 years, have paid off their homes. They may have a little debt or whatever, or some of the lower income families and such. So what do you do? And I'm hoping that you guys are taking that into consideration just as much as what it takes to run the city. I know that when I was a letter carrier in Fayetteville, North Carolina, in Fayetteville, next to Fort Bragg, they started revitalizing the area. And what they didn't like was some of the lower costing homes. And with the lower costing homes, sometimes there was trouble there. You know, drug runners, you know, prostitutes, all that stuff. So the city council of Fayetteville came up with an idea of urban revitalization. So they started raising all their property taxes to the point they couldn't afford them. And then they came in there and swooped up, took their homes, resold them, well, got the money from it. Then they leveled the area. And then they put up new condominiums where they were charging $2,000, $3,000 a month, where you could buy them. And it was right in an area where all around were nice homes. I had some celebrities, some North Carolina congressmen. One guy was a used car dealer, well known down there, $500,000 home. Well, all that area, all those people, and I delivered to those people. And a lot of them were in positions they could not ever get out, but they wanted their home, but they were forced out. So if things keep going up for the people that are having a hard time, that have low incomes, that are relying on Social Security or a small pension, they're not going to be able to, I guess, is that the cost of running a town? You know, sooner or later you're going to always have change, right? So I'm just hoping y'all take a big look at that. Like I said, when I first moved here over 20 years ago, my yearly taxes were $630. Now, if this passes, just on my tax portion of my escrow, it's going to be $2,550. You know, and that's a lot of money. And you're saying, well, that's over 20 years. You know, things are changing, costs are going up. But yet, during this particular time, for the last 2+ years, we all know that government influences a lot of our costs. Decisions that politicians make, the state level and the congressional level, state, have a big impact on the individual homeowner and the individual business owner. So with the people that seem to have been reelected, that a lot of them, in my opinion, some of you may not agree, have caused this increase, this inflation, we're going to get another 2 years of it. And if things aren't worked out, we may just see this continually happen after 2.5 years. So what can somebody do who's in that position? Okay, well, go out and get another job. Depends on how old you are. There's not supposed to be discrimination, right? Yeah, well, they kindly tell you, yeah, well, we're going with another candidate, but they don't tell you why. A guy like me, who I'm disabled, I can't, well, that's the longest I've ever sat over there, listening to everybody. I gotta get up probably every 20 minutes just to change position. And then I can't stand for long, but then I gotta sit down. But I'm not making a cry story here. I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me, that's just the way it is. But when you get someone like me, who's out there, where are all these jobs? Applying for all these different jobs. You know, I don't care if it's inside. You know, I spent 35, almost 40 years out in the cold and out in the heat. So like, yeah, I'll go for an office job, be nice and warm, and air conditioning in the summertime. But then they look at you, and I think it's because they want somebody younger, you know? Maybe they'll stay with them longer or whatever, but I don't know, I'm not for sure. But the things, I don't know, like the gentleman here said, and the other gentleman said that, while looking through the budget, I know you have your requirements, and I know you have the amenities that people like here. And I know you've got to come and make a budget. And that's the critical analysis that you have to go through. And like the gentleman there said, I'd just like to see more critical analysis and less, hey, okay, let's first, okay, we got this, and this. And I'm pretty sure Joel does, and the rest do a lot of good in that aspect. From my point of view, because I'm out of this arena, it just, by talking to a lot of people, it's just like, I hear what they're saying exactly how I feel, and, but we're not in the know of how you have to balance the budget, and I know that's difficult in its own right, but we're hoping that there's a lot more analysis that goes into it, a lot more input from the people in this town that are having a hard time, because the next 2.5 years, they're saying it's going to get a hell of a lot worse, and it's nice if you have a good job and you're making a nice amount of money. You might just think, well, yeah, that's no problem, it's gone up, I can afford it, and we'll just kick it down the road, kick it next year. No problem, as long as I got a job. But what happens when you don't have a job anymore? Unless you have a good retirement, you did some good planning, investment, stuff like that. Yeah, not everybody does that. The other thing, you were talking about home estimation values. And that comes from the county, is that right? Is there a control mechanism are they totally responsible for that? Or is there some type of way that somebody can come in and question? I know that there's, like, they have that meeting down there. I actually missed it, I wanted to go back to it. But in lieu of, excuse me, my throat's dry, in lieu of that, is there some way to get an actual valuation of each home? My home didn't cost what a lot of these homes cost. Actually, the home that I bought, First Street, was built in 1970. Then when that farmer off 4th Avenue, that's the reason why I came here. I was like, I want to be on the outside of the town. I don't want to be on the inside. Don't worry, I talked to him and his wife. We're never going to sell. 4 years later, they sold. And I'm smack dab right in the middle of everything I didn't want to be in. But those houses were 200 and some thousand, up to probably 275,000. Another subcontractor came in, or another contractor, came in and made 325,000 to 395,000. Then another one came in, 400,000 up. Would have cost to build it, sell it, right? But if the people who bought those homes at that amount were able to sell them, would they actually get the money that over a 20 or 30 year period that they're investing in? Probably not. But if the people in Rice County, and everybody's heard about this inflation, or excuse me, balloon, with the housing valuations, how do we know exactly if, like my house, they're saying $290,000. I know it's not worth $290,000. Will it sell on the market for that? Probably not. So it might sell for 160, or 170. It all depends on who's looking to buy and at what time. But as those housing rates go up, we pay more in taxes. And it gets back to the people. It's going to get to it. The only people that can be here are the ones that can afford it. And like I said, I'm not making a sob story out of it. It's just that 20 years it's been a good ride here. It's been nice, peaceful. One thing I did not look upon, and I know I'm coming from an outsider point of view, especially being a southern. But everybody wants to keep this a small town. Okay, mom and pop stores, fine. A little bit here, a little bit there, but you go look at New Prague. New Prague's starting to open up, a lot of the bigger businesses. Quick Trip gasoline stores, yeah, they're competing with Casey's and some of the other ones, Speedway and all that. But competition's good, okay? However it goes, they've got, what, a Coburn's, they've got, you know, the McDonald's, the Subway, we've got the Subway here, and, you know, Mac'n'Tunes. Prices at Mac'n'Tunes are pretty high. A lot of people have to drive further out to get, you know, they're spending the money one way, and then hoping to get a better deal someplace else, Walmart over in Lakeville or whatever. But, like I said, if you're making good money, it doesn't matter. But for the other people in the middle income or low income, it does make a big difference. Because we're looking at, okay, hypothetically, I got $2,000 a month. How am I gonna make that last for a month? Okay, house payment's almost $700. Yeah, that's a big chunk. And then you got all the other stuff you gotta trim down what you gotta, you know, rethink everything. There's a lot of stuff you have to consider luxury and need. And a lot of your luxuries go out the window because this is what you need. And the cost of heating going up, and that's what I was talking about before, where everything's gonna be going up. Cost of natural gas, propane, electricity, all that's going up. And it's gonna be going up in another 2.5 years. So the people that are at the bottom level are the ones that are hurting the most. And yeah, there are some programs that can help them out, I understand that, but it's gonna get to a point where they're gonna be either looking to sell their home and get out of here, if they can, or lose their home. And it's not, that's not the good part for, especially, you know, the people we look up to, the older generation. You know, I'm only 61, but you know, you got all these people here, all that life experience, and that's a hell of a thing to do, you know. But it's just not this town, it's any town. So, but, yeah, I guess that's all I, probably was just running
Oh,
in my mouth.
you're all good.
But, yeah, Scott's over there, he's, oh, thank God, his daughter doesn't live here anymore.
No, I was
I'm
gonna,
gonna tone that damn car.
no, you're good, you're good.
He's really good, he's really good with my daughter, very patient. And, yeah, I had, there's times I wanted to wring her neck too, but she's my daughter, she's my youngest, you know. But she's doing good now. She's in corporate executive operations manager for Bank of America. So she's doing really good. And my son, he's, I don't know if we, oh, I'm gonna plug my son's business, Ron the Sewer Rat. And they've taken, my son and his partner have taken that, co-owners, have taken that into a multi-million-dollar business now. So I'm happy for them. And my other son down in South Carolina, he's doing real good. So I'm not worried about them because they're making really good money and they can afford whatever town they're living in. So me, I'm not worried about it because I can live on practically nothing. But I see other people out there and I talk to other people, and that's, you know, when you have to listen to somebody, we don't have to, but when you want to listen to somebody, and it just tears at your heartstrings, you know. Of the severity that they're going through. And they may tell somebody else, they may, I don't know if they'll ever tell anybody up here in the city, but anyway, this is probably the last time you see me.
No, you're all good. You can definitely come anytime.
I don't know if I made any sense.
You are
Thank
all
you.
good.
Thanks for
Thank
your,
you.
thanks for your input.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, that's the last for the public input then. We'll move on to the consider approval of resolution 2022-53, resolution setting the fiscal 2023 final city budget and final property tax levy. Joel Erickson.
All right, well, thank you, council members. Well, gave my staff report, a lot of time for public comment. I guess now would be the time for the city council to decide how they want to proceed. Either adopting the resolution or taking into account some of the comments that were made tonight and postponing until a later date, but between now and no later than the 28th.
A few things, just to touch on a few of the things that were definitely brought up. It's a fine line. A lot of people want to see the amenities and more. You know, some people want a water park, and some people want, you know, more soccer fields, more baseball fields. You know, it all costs money. You know, we have to keep some sort of growth going, or that money doesn't come in, and then the home values will go down. Then our tax rates have to go up because it takes X amount of dollars to run the city. So, long and the short, it's a fine line that we try to get the most amenities we can for what we have in our budget. I think as a city, we do a pretty good job with the amount of trails we have and the parks, and if the skate park comes to life this next year, that's probably 15 years in the making. You know, and that came at a pretty minimal rate compared to what it could be. The small town thing.
And I would like to add too, it's not just a green space park.
Right.
You know, it's an actual amenity
Right,
beyond, you know,
something
we
for
just said
kids
we're
to
gonna,
do.
we're gonna put another park in.
Right.
You know, I could see the eye rolls and the,
Yeah.
oh my God, I can't believe you're just doing that, more grass to mow.
Right.
This is something above and beyond that.
Yep. You know, I completely understand, you know, the working residents that are not retired probably do have an easier time with our budget. But the ones that are retired, and I believe it hits them harder. You know, they don't, their inflation rates didn't go up for their retirement. You know, if anybody's watched their retirement funds, it's not so cool. But, you know, we've analyzed this quite in depth. I believe we had some 7 or 8 meetings since June, just as a council, plus all the countless department head meetings that we've all had with our own departments. I do feel there is a need for probably more things in the town, but I think we did cut actually quite a few things of, you know, the frills, the extras. You know, I think this is a pretty straightforward budget and not a lot of extras in it. Public Works, definitely they could use another full-time role. We give them some seasonal workers, and let's get by with that. Upstairs, I think there could be, you know, 1 or 2 more people full-time up there, and was staffed at, for a while this year, 2 people. You know, it's probably luckily it was a little slower building year because of that. But I think it's a tough situation, but I think we made the best that we could out of it, in my opinion.
And I think I remember going through the process too. I mean, realistically, we had a $400,000 increase.
Right.
And I mean, a big portion of that was just wages and health insurance increase
Right.
without doing anything above and beyond that. That's just to, you know, keep our quality employees.
Right.
And we're still on the little bit of the lower edge of the market for the area. And, you know, a city of our size.
Right.
So,
The police station had the payment for the police station, that's in there, you know, that's
Oh,
a
yeah.
sizable number,
Yep,
and
yep.
that's a need, that was needed
That was
for
a long time.
15 years,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
You know, as a city, I think that we can do that, you know, we can do better on some of those things.
And to
I
point
think
out that, I mean,
it's
if
time.
we would have tried to build that police station
Now.
right now, it would be double the price.
Yep, we wouldn't be doing it, there's no way.
No, there's no way we could
Yep.
have done it.
I do appreciate everyone who came this evening to
absolutely.
speak about it. And I hope that when we start doing this, typically in June, drop by some of the meetings and kind of give us your input, give us some guidance. What are you willing to see, what would you like to see us cut back on? It may happen, it may not happen. I mean, there are people who are strongly in favor. If we would quit doing the mosquito control, there would be
Bring
like
that up.
a mutiny. So, I
I
mean.
think we did that one year,
did.
we quit. and-
So, okay, we'll keep that, what can we, what can we shave off someplace else? But come, please come to the meetings and bring us your ideas and thoughts, because, it's a lot of number crunching to make it all happen, but we would sure like your input.
And again, with the home values, you know, if you feel that your home value is way out of whack, you know, get a hold of the assessors at Rice County and ask them to come out, you know, and look it over again. Unfortunately, what drives these a lot, the values, is comparables. So if your neighbor has a similar home and he sells his for 260,000, well, it makes your home worth more in their eyes. So, well, he got 260, you should get 260. 10% inflation rate this year, well, you should get 280, you know? That's exactly how it's done.
And if you're not familiar with, I mean, I'm just gonna use your home as an example. You know, my son is in his early 20s and he's looking at a house and he can't touch anything. Your house is well over $200,000.
Right.
I mean, just, there's there's nothing selling. You know, if he could find something for $160, he'd be all
Yep.
over it. There's nothing out there. So I understand when you're in your bubble, I don't mean to sound negative, but when that's all it's really hard, but when you're really digging in and looking, it's amazing how much
The
how
unfortunate
limited
part,
there is out there.
right, the unfortunate part is, you don't see the value increase until you sell your home. You know, if you don't wanna sell, well, it doesn't do you any good, unless you wanna borrow a ton of money against it,
Yeah.
but that doesn't make much sense most times either. All right, so, any more discussions on this? Any more thoughts, I guess?
Like I said, we mulled this over countless times, and I think we're being responsible with it. And obviously, the next year we have to look at what the
Right.
market's going to be and
Yep.
what the situation is. But
Yep.
yeah, I'm going to make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-53, setting the fiscal 2023 year.
Motion by Palava to approve resolution 2022-53,
Second?
second by Fewer. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Again, thank you all for your input, and you guys are, any public meeting, you're more than welcome to come and let us know your thoughts. There's always a public comment at every single meeting. Moving on to the approval of the resolution 2022-54, resolution approving salary and wage plan for 2023. Joel Erickson.
All right, thank you, council members. This is an annual resolution that is adopted by the city council for the upcoming calendar year. For 23, the city council decided on wage increase of 5.3%, removing the first two steps of the pay scale and making the city's lower wages more competitive with other communities and businesses, and then added two steps on the end. Went through this in my previous staff report. The CPI for the Midwest Urban Region increased 8.2% year over year, October 21 to 22. Again, forecasted for the next 4 years at 2.6%. Social Security beneficiaries will receive an 8.7% increase. Total wages, 1.76 million, and then required contributions to PERA, Social Security, FICA, that the city is responsible for, another just about 270,000 for total just over $2 million. The alternatives will be to not approve the proposed resolution and determine another calculation for wages. And then included with the staff report is the proposed resolution and the pay scale, as I just said, based off of discussions at the budget meetings. Unless there's any questions, staff would make a recommendation to approve resolution 2022-54.
I do have to say this pay scale with the adjusting, the lower steps and increasing on the other end. We are close to the metro. We're in Lakeville or New Prague, we're there in 15 minutes. We have to take that into consideration when we're looking at these wages. It's hard when we get employees and then 2 years later they're down the road. We have to do something to retain them, and I think this is it. Some of the positions are getting equalized a little bit better with their worth in the different communities. That's going to take the next couple of years to do that, but I do think this is a need as well.
I agree. It's hard to get, we'll take the part-time staff at the liquor store to try to get staff in there, for the, I'll call it oddball hours, because some of it is, it's Sundays and, every other this, that, and whatever day. it makes us a little more attractive. Is it a perfect world? No.
Right.
But, you know, this is the best we can do for now.
Right.
So this is what we have to work with.
I agree. I mean, we have to be competitive with
Yep.
our other towns. You know.
And you know, Cindy just brought up a good point, you know, the part-time help at the liquor store and the part-time at the library and the seasonal at the public works. Those could all take a full-time position, you know, and that would definitely increase the budget again if we
Yeah.
did that. So we are trying to get by as good as we can with what the monies we have.
You know, it wasn't that long ago, I know it's, police run a different, you know, same thing but different contract. Wasn't that long ago, a full-time police officer was making teens,
Yeah, yep,
you know, I mean, the life and death decisions, all that stuff, and they're,
right.
you know, they were making teens, you know, we were very, very far behind.
Yep.
And, you know, we've been bringing it up and, I don't think people realize that how really
back
far
it
behind
was.
we were.
Well, and also part of it too is that a lot of our part-time people are not benefits.
Yes.
So
Yep.
that's a huge chunk of money trying to supply benefits to a person. So, you know, there we are again trying to, you know, save every penny that we can,
Yep.
as, you know, as best we can.
Right.
I move we approve Resolution 2022-54, Salary and Wage Plan for '23.
Second.
Motion by Fewer to approve resolution 2022-54, second by Webb. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Again, you know, these are lots of meetings that gone into that, and it's a good thing, a good feeling to have it set aside. You know, it's kind of a bummer, it's only 6 months away, we start it all again.
Joel's groaning.
Boy, you really wrecked mine out, didn't you?
Exactly. Right, exactly. All right, here we have, moving on to D, consider approval of application for payment number 2 in the amount of $9,965.49 to Crane Creek Asphalt for the 2022 Mill and Overlay Project. Nick Williams, City Engineer.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. The 2022 Mill and Overlay Project has reached final completion. We have completed all punch list items. The project turned out really nice. This pay request is for final quantity adjustments for that project for various bid items. I will note that during construction, we did add some additional curb and gutter and had some changes to the limits a little bit, so with the final cost did come in a little bit higher than the approved contract. We're about 3% over that amount, but again, we did add a few things during construction there. Staff is recommending approval, pay voucher number 2 to Crane Creek Asphalt in the amount of $9,965.49. The alternative is to not approve pay voucher number 2. Staff does anticipate bringing forward an action to close out the project at the next meeting here in December. With that concludes staff's report. Be happy to answer any questions.
That's when the warranty would start at the approval.
Correct.
Any other questions of Mr. Nick?
Everything was up to par, we didn't have any issues.
Nope, everything looks really good. Yeah, it turned out nice.
Make a motion to, make sure I get the words here. Pay voucher number 2 to Crane Creek Asphalt for $99.65.49.
Motion by Palava,
Second?
second by Fewer, to approve the application for payment number 2 in the amount of $9,965.49 to Crane Creek Asphalt. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of application for payment number 2 in the amount of $2,143.67 to Crane Creek Asphalt for the 2022 Trail Improvement Project. Nick Williams.
Mayor, members of the council, similar to the last item, this is a pay voucher for the 2022 Trail Improvement Project. Again, that project has reached final completion as well, with all punch list items being addressed. This pay request is similar, just some minor quantity adjustments for various bid items. With this payment, we did come in under budget, which is good, so we're about 16% under the contract amount with this one. Staff is recommending approval of the pay voucher number 2. The alternative is to not approve the pay voucher, and similar to the last item, we'll be bringing an action to close out that project here on December 29th. That concludes staff's report. Be happy to answer any questions.
All looks good over there. Definitely
Yeah, it turned out pretty nice.
made a nice improvement.
So motion to approve payment number 2 for the amount of $2143.67.
Motion by Webb to approve payment number 2 in the amount of $2,143.67 to Train Creek Asphalt.
Second.
Second by Plava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Department reports. Nick?
Yeah, good evening again. So still working on putting together the construction documents for the 2023 trail improvement project. As Joel mentioned, we have a few trails there we're gonna be improving. And then also the mill and overlay project, which includes the fire hall parking lot as well as city hall parking lot. So we'll be working through that and bringing in action to award, to approve plans and specs and authorize bidding. We should get that here at the next meeting as well. And lastly, with this being the last meeting before Christmas, just want to wish the council a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Thank you. Mr. Erickson?
Thank you. Just a few things. We'll be hosting the Rice County Administrators meeting here on Monday. Week of the 19th, we'll be working on finalizing advisory board positions and hopefully community development planner and public works employee. Week of the 19th also have, like as of right now, Park Board and Planning Commission. And then I believe it's the 21st, the TCU legislative session. Kind of a kickoff. We've, with the exception of COVID, probably for the last 7 or 8 years, gotten together with Tri-City United and the communities that comprise the district and the associated state and federal representatives. So if anyone wants to attend that, it's the 21st, Wednesday, 5:30 I think is just kind of like a little social thing, and from 6 to 7 is city. So if anyone wants to go, let me know and I can get you guys signed up for that. Hopefully you guys got the email from Tammy on the employee potluck, so if you guys can make that, that would be cool. Otherwise, yeah, I guess like Nick said, if I don't see you guys, which I assume we will, but if not, have a Merry Christmas.
Right.
Crazy that we're already saying that.
Exactly.
I don't know where the year went.
Councilman Webb?
The liquor store has, well, the library board has not met yet, they'll meet next week. The liquor store is having their liquor tasting, I guess you call it, on Saturday from 5 to 7, I think. Or it's 4 to 7, I think it's 4 to 7 actually.
Perfect. Thank you. Councilmember Fuhrer?
The EDA will be meeting next week, so we'll have more information after that.
Councilman Plata?
Don't have anything on that, other than the fact that the Frosty Fest and the tree lighting was a absolute huge success. Thank you for Public Works, well, they're not here, but the lights worked.
And they stayed on.
They stayed on, that was awesome.
I don't know why I wasn't here. I was a little worried that they.
Lights didn't work, huh, Joe?
That was a short run there, Joe. No, everything was great, and we want to thank the community for, I mean, it was, the Lions Park was packed. I mean, there was no room to move, so, I know the mayor said he's never seen a turnout for the tree lighting like that. Downtown, Main Street was hopping the whole time, and, we're hoping that even next year it'll be bigger, so thank you for the community for coming out, and we're glad we're able to do it.
Thank you. Just a couple things I have. Frosty Fest was on my list too, and Chamber did a great job. I don't know if the weather helped or whatever, but it was a huge turnout. That was great. Thank you again. Parks I will have upcoming in January now as well with planning and zoning. I would think in January or February, planning and zoning will be seeing a preliminary plat or maybe a ghost plat of a property that the developer had contacted me about here about a week ago. So we'll keep that in our minds. Other than that, I have nothing. So I wish everybody a happy holidays as well. I don't know if that's politically correct to say or how you say it now, but happy holidays.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Fuhrer to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Palava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This meeting is